Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem, a postmortem of my Blitz game number 326. I was black here, my opponent played e4, and I decided to play the French defense, which I haven't played in a while. Cancel that. e4. There we go. So e6, the French defense. You can see the third most popular choice, d4, d5, and now this is where white gets to choose what variation he wants. Knight c3 leads to the classical or the win hour, knight d2 is the Tarrasch, e5 the advance, and e takes d5 the exchange French, which is somewhat drawish and not much of a try for an advantage. But e5 isn't a try for an advantage by white. Not the most popular, but still a solid opening. So black immediately counterattacks the center, and white supports it. And we get to this interesting point right here. I guess queen b6 is not the most popular move here. Bishop d2, well, they're about equal. Bishop d7 is an interesting alternative. But you'll see why bishop d7 is played in a minute, because I'm going to play it after queen b6. He goes bishop d3, and this leads to the Milner-Barry gambit, which I didn't play into the gambit. You can take right away. So first let's show you the trick. C takes d4. And if he takes back, you can't take here because he'll just take that. And if you take with the queen, it just gets worse and worse. Now, normally in this situation, you're looking for discovered attacks. You may be thinking of bishop takes h7, the most typical kind of attack. One of the reasons why people miss this when they're not familiar with the pattern is the check comes from this side. But it really doesn't matter where the check comes from. It's useful to remember a bishop has two different ways to attack a square. So from here it can attack the king and along this diagonal or along this diagonal if this happened to be open. But in any case, the tactic in this case is to bring the bring the bishop to b5, delivering the check there, and it's just game over. I've lost the queen here. So after knight takes, I'm down a piece. So if we look at the main line of this gambit, it's actually c takes d4 and then bishop d7. And so now the point of bishop d7 is clear. It's just defending against this check and threatening to win the pawn. And the Milner-Barry gambit is to go ahead and let black take the pawn. He can castle here and knight takes. And there's some interesting compensation here, but black should be fine. You'll see that the engine favors white. The engine favors black. The opening book here favors white slightly. So I guess it's a bit of a tactical kind of opening, and the white player who's familiar with this can maybe get some something going, even though he's down a pawn. But in general, it's not quite a sound gambit, so it's okay to go ahead and take it. I played this slightly differently. It's been a while since I've seen this played. After the bishop move here, right? That was white's last move, was bishop to d3. I just played bishop to d7, threatening to take the pawn. And then he just dropped back with his bishop to c2. And now I should probably go ahead and take it, but I played knight g7 first. That's okay move, not a problem. He castled. Okay, we're out of the opening book at this point. He castled. And now I take the pawn. Eventually you want to take this pawn. You want to take it at a time when white is forced to take back with a pawn, because this pawn on d4 will always be a target, and it's already got a couple pieces lined up against it, and the knight can attack it too. And I go knight f5 immediately. Now the engine thinks knight b4 is an interesting idea here. I didn't consider this at all. Knight b4, hitting the bishop and maybe threatening rook to c8. Knight b4, bishop a4, bishop takes a4. So getting off the light squared bishop. If white has no better move, let's take a look at this. If white has no better move than bishop a4, in the French defense, this is your bad bishop. So if you can trade this off, it's often an accomplishment. So if he goes bishop to a4, you just take it. If he plays bishop to b3, well, it looks like you can go bishop to b5 and get your bad bishop on a good diagonal. Here, rather than move the rook, the engine is suggesting bishop a4, pinning the bishop and forcing the exchange. So anyway, black is doing fine in all of these lines. So knight b4 is an interesting move here. I played the move knight f5, and that's actually not a good move. Gives the advantage back to white. It's double-edged. I knew that this messes up my pawns if he takes. And then what did I play here? I played knight c3. Let's see, e takes f5, it's his move. He played knight c3, attacking my d-pawn, and I defended with bishop e6. So you can see there's a slight edge to white here. This is not a huge advantage. This is a typical kind of opening advantage. So it's not like I've done anything horrible, but I had better ways to play. I've given myself some pawn weaknesses, and this bishop is not very active. But it can get going later in the game. I mean, I have a long-term strategy of trying to push these pawns forward, attack his weaknesses, and liberate my bishop. So it gives me something to play for. He went b3 here. I think this was probably a mistake. It weakens his knight. And I didn't take advantage of it in the best way. I probably should just go rook c8, going after the knight indirectly. I went after it directly, but he can just defend, or he could go knight a4. He chose to defend. And here I castled. This is all okay. And then a3, kicking my bishop. So that's why maybe the bishop move here was a bit premature. If I had had the rook already in play, maybe there would be some tactics here. Anyway, so I'm nothing better than to drop back. Well, I could have exchanged too, but I want to keep the bishop. End up with the bishop pair in the endgame. And now he went b4. This pawn is potentially a weakness. I was thinking playing knight a4 and going after it, but he stops all that with b4. And now the engine says g5. That's an interesting way to play. Gaining space on the king's side and maybe taking some squares away from this knight. Not a way I would think of. I was thinking more, why don't I attack these pawn weaknesses over here? And I played a5. But this is a bit of a mistake because he can push on with b5. So it's better to play that kind of move at a point when your opponent doesn't have the option of pushing forward, because he gains a tempo of pushing, and then he can support his pawn with a4. Although if you look at the engine likes bringing out the queen and getting active with the pieces, putting pressure on the e-pawn with queen b3, or yeah, okay. It's not such a huge advantage. At first it was liking it a lot, and now it's sort of damped down. But anyway, white is definitely better here, even with this move a4. And so I'm just keeping pieces on and continuing to play and look for opportunities. I've got the c file. Let's see, do I have it? I guess he can contest the c file, but at least I can fight for the c file. This is the one open file in the position, so both sides are going to want to try and control that. And I still have some ideas of going after the d-pawn. He always has to keep an eye on that. But right now I have a problem that this knight isn't doing anything. I need to figure out a way to activate that knight and then activate my bishop. So that's my long-term plan. He goes queen d3. Not sure what that was about. I go queen a7. The engine likes queen d8 better, and maybe it's more central there and has ideas of looking out on the king's side as well. But I'm just clearing the space for my knight to get in the game. He goes rook c2. Yeah, so that was, if he went knight e2, that's much stronger. Knight e2 or rook a1. Yeah, that's not at all clear to me. I'm not sure what the engine is seeing there. But anyway, this allows me to get my knight to b6 and then to c4. So he doubles his rooks on the c file, and I'm able to stop it with this knight c4 move. And the engine thinks, let's see, oh, he can, there's a tactic here I missed. Aha. Yeah, he can just take this pawn and undermine my knight. I forgot about that, or I overlooked that. And then rook takes, bishop takes. Okay, it's not so clear. It's a exchange sack. Rook takes, queen takes. So we played to this point. So I have a rook versus a knight, but he has an extra pawn, and he has two pawns that are connected in the center, looking pretty strong there. That would be a very interesting way to play. So okay, so I didn't. Well, I kind of overlooked that idea of the exchange sack. But instead of taking there, he played bishop to a1, getting away from my knight. I was going to trade off that bishop if I got the chance, because my rook is supported here, so I wasn't worried about opening up this C file. Okay, so when he drops his bishop back, I play b6 here to shut down any activity, any idea he has of pushing this pawn is now stopped. And okay, we've reached about an even position. He goes knight to d1, opening up this C file and putting pressure on my knight. And now I should play the move. Another thing I missed during the game. I was a little bit missing a few things during this game. Bishop to a3 would be an interesting move here. This square is it's guarded by the knight and attacked by the queen, so it's safe to play that move. Is it safe? It's a little bit tricky. I guess now my rook is still defended by the bishop and the other rook, so it's safe to play that move. And then he has to move his rook to b1, and I've relieved the pressure on the c file. Okay, so I chose to play rook c7 here. Okay, this leaves us in the range of about even. He goes knight b2, cancel that. Knight b2, going after my knight. And I went rook fc8. Okay, so this is all about even, and he just chose to take. And now, okay, that's about the same. Rook takes or d takes. Rook takes. I decided to take with the rooks, just get all these guys off. And at the end, this pawn is supported by my bishop. So this passive bishop that was sitting here quietly, not doing anything, is now playing a useful role defending this passed pawn, which can be a real strength in the endgame. And already the engine likes black's position here, and as it goes on, my advantage just increases. And there's one interesting point where I could have just won it, so we'll get to there in a little bit. Right here, I should have probably followed up with bishop b4. I saw that actually in the game, but I didn't see it until after I'd already moved queen b7. I had burned a lot of time on the clock, so I might have been getting a little bit low on time. But I was worried about him pushing the d pawn forward, so I wanted to make sure I had a reply to d to the move d5 hitting my bishop. That would be pretty dangerous. So, but with the queen and bishop here, I've stopped it from coming forward. He played bishop c3, blocking my pawn. I play queen d5, blockading his pawns. So now he plays h3, maybe relieving some back rank pressure, giving luft to his king. And I play f3, just trying to undermine these pawns in the center. So this is reasonable. He takes, I take, cancel out, I take. And knight e5, yeah. This move is kind of annoying because I don't really want to take and end up in a situation with opposite colored bishops, because this would be very drawish. And I'll show you how it might have gone down. New variation. He takes, I take, he takes, and now I take, and he takes. Okay, and now he's got a dark squared bishop, and I have a light squared bishop. He's got a passed pawn, I have a passed pawn. This is just a dead drawn game, so I want to keep material on, not get into that kind of a drawn opposite colored ending. So after h6, after he went knight e5, I went h6, thinking maybe I can get my bishop on this square. He stops that idea by playing f4, and now this knight is very solid, and I can't really get rid of it. I don't want to trade it off, as I explained, and so I just have to kind of work around it. So this complicates my task quite a bit. I went, right here is one place where I could have considered activating my queen. Queen to e4, looking out on the back rank and generating some threats. But I played queen to d6, trying to rearrange my pieces here. This is still about even. Bishop there, queen there. Let's see, did he have a way to maintain equality here? Well, queen e2 is a little better. King h7. Okay, it's hard to see the difference between queen e2 and queen e3, honestly. But because it's putting more pressure on the c-pawn, that's it. From e2, his queen would be attacking my c-pawn. So it would limit my moves and maybe keep me tied up. Okay, so that's how white could try and hold on. He drops down to queen e2 now, so he got there in 2 moves. But now I have a chance to counterattack. I'm threatening his bishop, and I'm also threatening to come into the back rank here, maybe pick up this pawn. So this is good. He drops his bishop back to d2. Yeah, so this is where I get the winning advantage, and already c3 wins. So I didn't find the quickest win here. c3. And the bishop has to move. Say the bishop goes to e3. There's also, keep in mind, my bishop is eyeing his g2 square. So if I can get onto the second rank here, c2, just pushing it on ahead. Why can't he take it? Because of, his queen is overloaded. His queen's needed to defend the bishop. Okay, so he can't take it, and he has to play queen d2. Okay, similar to how we got. And then I can play queen a2. Well, this is kind of similar to the game. Okay, let's show what happened. I played queen b2, and this keeps an advantage. Okay, so I have a winning advantage from this point on. I don't always play the most precise moves, but I managed to maintain a winning advantage. I push c3 here, which is good. He gets his bishop out of the way, and I push on with c2. And he plays queen d2, and right here there's a mate in there's a mate in 6 after he plays queen d2. So see if you can find the idea. It showed up briefly on the screen, but in case you missed it, here's your chance for a tactical quiz. After white plays queen d2, what does black play to win the game? Okay, pause the video if you want time to think about it. I'm going to give the answer away now. He did play queen d2, and the really neat trick is I can play c1 queen with check, and if he takes the queen, which that was his idea, was to take the queen, then it's checkmate. Once again, this bishop here, remember, is eyeing g2, so that's an important threat in the position that I was overlooking. So after c1 queen, to try and defend, he actually has to move the king. But then, of course, this is all losing. I'm just a queen up, and I'm going to mate him in 3 moves. So anyway. That would have been the quickest way to win. The key idea, after queen d2, the key idea is that the threats on the 7th rank here, or the 2nd rank, means that I can just go ahead and queen my pawn. Okay, I missed that idea. I played bishop e7, trying to get my bishop around and support the pawn. And as I said, this keeps an advantage for me all the way through. And well, let's just go through the rest of the game kind of quickly. In these next few moves, I mean, I'm just maneuvering and trying to figure out how to push the pawn. He gets active with his pawn here, and so I bring my queen back to defend. And now we get into an endgame. It's interesting. I didn't have to take. Oh, it says if I take with the a pawn, it's stronger. That's an important point here. If I take with the pawn, then I have 2 pawns here, and it makes it easier for me to queen something. I took with the bishop. I was also a little bit afraid about him pushing this pawn, but I guess my other bishop can always stop it. So he played bishop takes b6, and I start bringing my king over. Now I'll need it to round up these loose pawns over here. And he played bishop to c7. And okay, and I finally grabbed this pawn. He was threatening to push it. I always had it covered, but he was threatening to push it. And now he played b6, but I have this pawn stopped with my light squared bishop. This is the advantage of the 2 bishops, is they cover all the squares of the board, and his bishop only covers half the square, so I can always find a square to stop that pawn on. And also his knight is tied up and is on the far away from the action over here, but it can't really leave because it's got to keep an eye on this pawn. So this gives me time to walk my king over, and then it's a fairly straightforward win from here, although it takes a while. So now finally I can trade off his bishop and mop up the loose pawns. He tries to get active on the king side, but the queen side is where the action is. I go after the loose pawn here, and he brings his king over to try and gather up my pawn. And he succeeds, actually, in rounding it up. I might have been able to hold on to it if I'd played bishop to e4 at the right time, but this is still winning. He grabs the pawn, and it's winning because he can't defend this pawn. So I grab this pawn. Oh, he played king back to d3. I grab this pawn. And he goes over here. Cancel that. goes king c3. He needs to try and stop this pawn from queening. King b5 and knight b3. And of course this endgame is hopeless. The pawn endgame is hopeless. So I just take the knight off as the simplest way to win. And then just go through the rest of the moves. You push the pawn forward. You don't really want to push it too far forward because that makes it easier for him to win the pawn and brings him closer to the scene of the action. You want to leave it back here and then race with your king when he's at the maximum distance from the pawn. And so I'm over here. More quickly, I round up his pawns and then I queen with one of these guys. So that's how the game ended. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Leave me any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.